God called me to write letter to the American church. I don't say that lightly. I don't like when Christians speak sloppily, but I have never felt like I did about this message that I've got to write this. I was going to self-publish it. I just felt I have this burden from God. I must write what I have to say in letter to the American church and get it out. I did. Some people saw it, and some people read it and heard my message and said, this needs to be a documentary film. And they made a documentary film, Letter to the American Church. People can go to lettertotheamericanchurch.com. And that sort of unpacks it, and in a much more dramatic way. I wrote Letter to the American Church to kind of speak to people in the middle and say, please reason with me about the role of the church, trying to make the connection between Bonhoeffer in the 30s. And you know, it's funny because Letter to the American Church is the first book, Religionless Christianity is the sequel. In some ways, my Bonhoeffer book is the prequel, that if you read Bonhoeffer, these books sort of unpack Bonhoeffer for where we are now. But so, what are we talking about? We're talking about the madness.
See, this is the window that you have. That's what I was talking about. At 575 Madison, you put yourself into a window not only from your media, but from your research.
Well,
you're
I guess
seeing things that other people can't see.
I
But
think,
keep going.
part of that has mostly to do with this gift from God to me to tell the Bonhoeffer story.
Yeah,
Again, it
okay,
wasn't some
okay.
idea that I had. It was sort
Okay.
of God's idea. And as I told the Bonhoeffer story, I was awakened in telling the story of Bonhoeffer in my book, which I recommend so people can get the details. But in telling that story, I thought, wow, this could happen in America. And as I wrote the Bonhoeffer book, it was dawning on me as I'm writing it, this sort of smells familiar. What is this? Could this happen in America? And it really wasn't until 2020 that it started happening for real. And what we saw was, well, before I say that, let me say, if somebody puts a gun to my head and says, what's the story of Bonhoeffer? Okay, the story of Bonhoeffer is a man of God trying to wake up the German church to understand that it is their job, their duty assigned by God to stand against the satanic evil rising around them in the form of Hitler and the Nazis. The German church failed to heed this prophetic cry through Bonhoeffer, failed to understand that it is their duty, biblically and directly from God, to stand against evil self-sacrificially, even to the point of death. This is what Christians are called to do, to live out our faith. They thought, no, we just want to focus on Romans 13. Whatever the government says, we're just going to go along with it. We don't want any trouble. We just want to do church. Oh, we just want to preach the gospel. We want to have nice church services while the Jews go to hell. Like, we don't care that they're going to Auschwitz and Treblinka. And we're going to focus on theology. Absolute abdication of duty as Christians. Bonhoeffer said, it is our duty as Christians to speak up for the Jews, to stand against evil. So he was trying to wake up the church to be the church and to say to the church, hey, church, you see these evils rising around you? It is your duty to stand against it. You have no excuse not to. You say you believe Jesus defeated death on the cross, so you shouldn't fear death. You should boldly, joyfully stand against these evils now, united. You have the cultural power as the church in Germany to stand against this and win. But they said, no, we just want to do church. We just want to play church. We just want to have nice church services. We don't want any trouble. We don't want to get involved in the controversial stuff. Oh, we're not supposed to be political. And Bonhoeffer said, that's nonsense. Of course you're supposed to be political. You're supposed to be anything and everything to do what God called you to do. And by the way, Wilberforce wasn't just political. He was a politician standing against the evil of the slave trade. But these lies, which we see today in the American church, were there in the German church. And we have the classic case of the church failing to stand against evil and thereby opening the door to satanic evil in the form of the Nazis, who gained power and crushed millions.